We start with an incredible and inspiring update on the condition of Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who had his breathing tube removed and has begun to speak with his family, his care team, and his Buffalo Bills teammates. Hamlin was able to FaceTime into the Bills team meeting today saying, "I love you, boys." Bills head coach Sean McDermott recounted the chance that the team had to speak with Hamlin earlier today. According to the physicians at the UC Medical Center, Damar continues to make just a remarkable progress in his recovery, and it's just flat out awesome to hear. The NFL made it official. They have canceled the Bills and Bengals game, meaning both teams will play just 16 games this season. So, as a result of that, the owners approved today a league proposal for a set of scenarios for a possible neutral site game on Championship Sunday. And I want you to take a look at this, and this is very important here because I think this is fair. And I personally, if applicable, wanted to see the Buffalo Bills and I wanted to see the Bengals play again. They decided it wasn't going to happen. And as a result, you needed that neutral site because the optics of the Buffalo Bills going into Arrowhead just wasn't there based upon head-to-head Week 6 on the NFL on CBS and Buffalo winning that game. So I give you the backdrop that I really wanted to see that game played, but under these unprecedented circumstances, I understand. And I thought Roger Goodell laid it out beautifully and brilliantly with this statement when he said, "We shared today with the owners this morning the reasons for the need to cancel the Buffalo-Cincinnati game. Not playing the game to its conclusion will have no effect on which clubs will qualify for the postseason. No club will qualify for the postseason, and no club will be eliminated based on the outcome of this game." It was critical for the owners to vote today so the clubs know going into this weekend what they are playing for, end quote. And look, again, as someone who wanted to see that game played, I think that Roger Goodell came to a great conclusion. Personally, I would love if the neutral site was outdoors because Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati are all outdoor teams, but again, we're talking about a player's life, and if it turns out that the game is in Atlanta or the game is in a dome in Indianapolis, I mean, that is just going to be under the umbrella of it is what it is under this circumstance. And listen, I'm happy for the Bills, and they're going to have an opportunity here to make sure that they are going to be in a neutral site game again, if in fact those things on the screen before all happen. Now, if Vegas wins this weekend, then Buffalo will be playing on Sunday for the number 1 seed, and obviously getting home field and having the AFC going through lovely Western New York. And I expect the Buffalo Bills to be able to beat the New England Patriots. And frankly, when you factor in football and the matchups and the emotion, I don't even think this is going to be a competitive game come the second half. Now, you look at it from a Kansas City perspective, and listen, I think Patrick Mahomes is not losing. I think this game is going to be close. Frankly, I love the fact and agree with the fact that the league wanted to make sure that you didn't have, as I mentioned, Buffalo going into Kansas City on Championship Sunday because that just wasn't right based upon the number of games played. I do think the Chiefs are going to win, but I'm sure there are a lot of people, a lot of Bills fans, obviously, rooting for the Raiders to take care of business and get it done. Now, if there's one fan base that's annoyed today, if there's one team that's annoyed today, it's Cincinnati. And Zach Taylor said he's not happy. And Zach Taylor has obviously been a mensch and handled everything with grace and aplomb all week long. But, you know, there is a scenario if the Bengals lose against the Baltimore Ravens and they're going to flip a coin to see who ultimately is going to host on Wild Card Weekend. Listen, that would be a disaster. The optics of that would be a mess, but you see how hot the Bengals are. There is no chance with a backup quarterback the Baltimore Ravens are beating Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati this weekend. It's just not going to happen. And listen, I think that Cincinnati's fans are annoyed. And I get it because, it's not right when you look at the road and the path for Cincinnati, perhaps, if they have to eventually go on the road and go into Arrowhead. And they obviously, earlier in the season on CBS, beat the Kansas City Chiefs head-to-head. But obviously, a lot has to play out. The result is going to matter in terms of whether or not that's a neutral site game for, hypothetically, Cincinnati and Kansas City, depending upon what happens this weekend, starting with that Vegas and Kansas City game. And listen, I'm giving you a lot of words. We're showing you a lot of facts on the screen. I wanted to see the game played, but then you would have had the bye week in between the Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl moved. You would have had, let's say, next week the NFC postseason and the ball game between the Bills and the Bengals. Then you have to delay the AFC postseason. So I give Roger Goodell a lot of credit. And I know the Bengals, and Zach Taylor went on record today, and Katie Blackburn, the team vice president, she's not happy either. I know the Bengals fans are annoyed. I think under the circumstance, when you look at fairness with this unprecedented event dealing with a player's life, I think Roger Goodell did a great job. Welcome back, time to shine. Let's shine on football on a Football Friday. Get your popcorn ready, folks. Joe Flacco versus Skylar Thompson on Sunday. Jets, Dolphins. Major AFC 7-seed implications on the line. Remember yesterday when I stressed how I thought Pittsburgh was going to get everything it needed to make the playoffs? Well, scratch that. Yesterday never happened. Because Mike White is out, Joe Flacco's in. That, to me, shifts who I think is going to win the Miami Jets game. I think now, even with Skylar Thompson, Miami is going to win. Miami's going to make the playoffs because I think New England's going to lose against Buffalo. And I do think Pittsburgh's going to beat Cleveland, but they're not going to get everything they need because if Joe Flacco's the answer, I'd love to know the question. The Giants are locked in as the 6th seed in the NFC, regardless of the outcome on Sunday, which means, in my opinion, Brian Daboll should do whatever he wants to get his team ready to win a playoff game. Forget the conversation, Giants, they've already overachieved, house is money. That's not how Brian Daboll is wired. Look, if this holds, Giants are going to Minnesota. They almost beat the Vikings in Minnesota a few weeks ago. Brian Daboll's a hell of a coach. So if he's only going to play Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones for a quarter or not at all, I'm on board with it. Whatever he thinks is best to keep these guys in bubble wrap and fresh. And Kirk Cousins in the playoffs, I'm sure the Giants are thinking, we're going to take our chances. And the Giants will have an opportunity here, if that's the matchup, to win a playoff game. Big news for the Philadelphia Eagles, as head coach Nick Sirianni said, quarterback Jalen Hurts trending in the right direction for Sunday's game against the aforementioned New York Football Giants. And look, this is obviously a big deal because if the Eagles win the game, they will win the division and most especially get the 1 seed. And this is a monster deal moving forward here for Philadelphia. And getting Jalen Hurts back is everything. I still think San Francisco is going to end up winning the NFC when it's all said and done. But making sure that Hurts is 100%. And this team, which seems so dominant for the vast majority of the season, listen, they have struggled over the last couple of weeks. Gardner Minshew, solid backup. You don't want him as your starting quarterback. So this feels like a big deal for the Philadelphia Eagles for this weekend and moving forward. The Washington Commanders are going to start Sam Howell at quarterback this weekend. This situation is a mess, a complete and utter disaster. And honestly, it all goes back to the ill-fated deal for Carson Wentz. How in the world could you look at Carson Wentz from a year ago, bring him in and think he would ultimately right the ship and Wentz was dreadful, and he got hurt, and then benched, and Taylor Heineke played well, and he was a spark, and then Taylor Heineke turned back into a pumpkin, so Ron Rivera went back to Carson Wentz, and they lost, as we predicted last week against Cleveland. So the person that I blame for all of this is Ron Rivera, because the fact that Washington in the driver's seat to make the playoffs 6 weeks ago, the fact that they're playing a meaningless game and starting Sam Howell, that is an indictment of the Wentz deal, which was an easy prediction, and everything wrong with Washington. Hey, the number one pick of the NFL draft is up for grabs this weekend in the NFL, with both the Texans and the Bears in the running. The Bears are starting Nathan Peterman against the Vikings. So the Bears are going to lose. And I think the Texans are going to beat the Colts on CBS. And if that happens, I'm telling you, the Bears are going to end up with the number one pick in the draft, which would mean everything, because then you could see teams like Houston, like Carolina, like the Jets, like Washington, give up a boatload of picks and players to get Bryce Young, because the Chicago Bears, with Justin Fields, who's not playing this weekend with an injury, obviously with Justin Fields, they would not be in the quarterback business. You know, Lovie Smith is going to make sure his team's playing hard. Indianapolis is a mess. The Texans players don't care. I think Houston is going to mess the whole thing up.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.